Coming to you live from the cursed house of tomorrow, it's this week's Apocalypse. I am your co-host, Kevin Lenihan. With me, as always, sheltering in place, is John Ferris. John, how are you doing today?
Ooh.
Ooh, are you a ghost?
No.
Are you the spirit of evil?
I'm trying to kind of trick them.
Them?
Maybe. If it is a ghost.
If it is a them, or a they, or
yeah.
an it.
Who knows what it is?
I don't know, but this house is evil, John.
Yes.
To quote, I can't remember, I think...
The title of one of the movies.
of a movie that we have here, yes. I can't remember what film that's from now that I've just spouted it out. But anyway, yes, this automated house of evil. Alexa's gone mad.
It's poltergeist, isn't it?
Does she say that? She says the house is clear at one point.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if she says the house is evil, but this house is evil, John. Oh, you know what? It's me. I said it. It must have been me. You're
just quoting yourself.
I was quoting myself, obviously. This house is evil. John, Alexa's gone mad. Alexa's gone mad. She keeps ordering toilet paper, which is, maybe that's what... You remember at the start of the whole pandemic thing? And everybody, fucking started, all the toilet paper was gone.
Yep.
I think
I remember that.
Yeah, this house, I think, is responsible because there's about 15 metric tons of it in the basement.
So much so that you can't really see walls. This house may just be toilet paper.
It may be entirely made of toilet paper now, who knows. But this Alexa is evil, it runs the house, and I don't know if it's possessed by a ghost, or a demon, or it's just got, AI that has gone run amok and become evil.
Yeah.
But, I mean... It's not that bad. It's quite soft and stuff. If you fall over, you land on toilet paper, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And, it's quite squishy and that. But I feel like when it comes to conscious sort of houses, it's only a matter of time before they turn on the occupants in some way. They come to realize something, or they learn something about humanity, or they decide they want something more, or something like that, and then all of a sudden we're in the fucking artificial womb, or we're being used in experiments, or eaten by ghosts, or whatever. So, I have proposed that we sit in this sort of toilet paper composed den or sitting room and watch some films, if you'd like. Yeah. And then we can just sort of try and garner from that exactly what our course of action should be, because we can't just leave right now because the doors won't open. Mm-hmm. It won't let them will not let us out.
We'll just refer to it as Alexa for now.
Alexa will not let us out. Don't listen to this on your speakers, because your Alexa might go fucking mental and start ordering bog roll by the fucking pound.
Alexa, order all the bog roll.
Alexa, cancel that. I'm gonna stop you. Maybe you're the evil one.
Damn it.
Alright, so I've got 3 movies here, weirdly enough, exactly 3 that were provided by the house. I don't know, maybe it's got designs. Maybe we're walking into a trap. But anyway, from 2017 we have House of Evil, directed by Luca Boni and Marco Ristori. It's probably Boni, right?
Yeah.
Don't laugh at me. I don't know. I'm an ignorant Irishman. Alright, that's House of Evil from 2017. Then we have The Amityville Horror from 1979, directed by Stuart Rosenberg.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then we have Demon Seed from 1977, directed by Donald Cammell.
Cammell.
It's got 2 L's in the end, so I'm assuming it's Cammell. I'm having a lot of trouble saying people's names, it turns out, today.
I'm not even attempting it, so...
No, that's fine.
More power to you.
I will take that bullet, that's grand. Alright, well, let's sit down and not say these names and watch these movies. Alright, well, we're definitely not going to run out of bog roll, but we may run out of sanity, John. I'm just going to plow straight into this one, because goddamn. John, what did you think of House of Evil from 2017, directed by Luca Boni and Marco Ristori, and may I note, May I just note,
Producer.
produced by Uwe Boll, and it fucking stinks of that.
Yeah, it's got his stank all over.
It has his filthy grease all over it. God.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I seen his credit come up on the screen, I was like, oh, shit. We've made a terrible mistake here.
Yep.
Yeah, this is barely a movie. This is. I mean, you'd mentioned before in our award ceremony, our carpenters, our carpies. Sorry, I like to call them.
Don't call them that. That's rude. That's rude to John Carpenter. Probably, if he knew it existed and then he knew you were saying that, he'd probably be very upset. I assume.
Yeah. Well, during that, you had mentioned that House of the Dead was your pick for the worst movie that we've looked at in this podcast.
Yeah, looking at it like from a scholarly perspective, it was the worst film. Yeah. And
you'd mentioned how it was incompetent in kind of all aspects of filmmaking. House of Evil's pretty much the same.
Yeah, there's less sort of action to highlight the incompetence. You know, it's not really. There's nothing really for a horror film. There's not a lot of intensity to it.
And by the way, I'm just going to say that I'm fully just spoiling this movie here. I know we normally don't spoil stuff until later, but there's so little to talk about with this, and there's so. And plus, if you watch the trailer of this, it spoils part of the ending anyway. It
does,
which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
You know,
not good.
So it can't even do that right.
Nope.
But there's so many inconsistencies, and there's things like that. One of my pet peeves is when horror movies have it has things for only the audience. It's like in this movie, there's a ghost girl who walks behind, and she's walking about in the background, and her only purpose is there for the audience to go, oh my god, there's a ghost, but it's not scary. It's just okay, and the characters don't even acknowledge. She doesn't do anything that even attracts the character's attention or anything. She's just dandering about in the background. For all we know, she could just be a neighbor girl who's just very, very quiet.
Yeah, she could just be a weirdo who's walking through their house, because wherever the hell their house is, John, where are they?
I don't know.
Where are they? Because, no, I looked at the blurb, right, so...
It's the countryside.
It's the countryside. They've moved to a mansion in the countryside. Now, here's the problem with that. The problem is, right, at one point, the house is definitely evil. The house has got a curse on it or whatever. They are a couple in this, it's made in 2017, but it's set in the 1970s, nebulously in 1975 or 76 or something, I think. And they're this ostensibly American couple who have moved to a mansion in the countryside. Mm-hmm. And there was a murder in the house. You're going to see this in another movie here that this is directly ripping off. It actually rips off a couple of films. Shamelessly. Sometimes there's a thin line between homage and just ripping something off. This is just a fucking rip-off of several things. But,
this destroyed the line as it rushed past it.
Yeah, so this takes a big thing from the Amityville horror, which we're going to talk about later, of there was a murder in this house 2 years ago or whatever, and now these new people have moved in, and it was evil did it. So they're a crappy couple, and they are supposedly American, and they've moved to this mansion, is what the wording that is used, in the countryside. They talk about, we are introduced to these characters, by the way, in a scene in which we sit and we watch their dog take a shit by the side of the road,
and it's the best scene in the movie.
That's your opinion, and you're welcome to it. It is definitely the most cinematically confident. But
the framing was perfect.
Oh, the framing of the dog was just so good, John. Yeah, you could really just. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that.
Plus, the dog was the best actor.
The dog was the best actor because he didn't have any fucking lines. So we're introduced to this couple by watching they stop to let their dog out to shit by the side of the road, and then they have a really awkward, stilted conversation that, unlike any conversation two regular human beings have ever had, where they basically just list the last year of their events from the last year of their life, and the fact that they have money troubles, and that they're moving to the countryside, and things are going to get better or whatever. Now, it's definitely Italy. There is no doubt in my mind that they are in Tuscany.
Yep.
The house is a Tuscan villa. Now, John, the problem... And also, later on, when they are introduced to a priest, who was maybe my favourite actor in the whole film, not because he was good, though, but for other reasons, but he refers to them as foreigners.
Yeah.
Now, John, they're playing an American couple. Everyone in it has a really strong accent. They're not American actors. They're two English actors who are terrible at American accents. But anyway, in the blurb for this movie, it says that they moved to a mansion in Connecticut.
Oh, God.
But they were referred to in the film as foreigners. And it's clearly Italy, where it was clearly filmed in Italy badly. And that house is like, there's no house in America that looks like that. I can guarantee.
Maybe it was built by an Italian couple.
And did they then plant exclusively Italian sort of shrubbery and whatnot around there? And
yes,
yeah, maybe
it was owned by the Italian mafia in Connecticut.
Yeah, but all the actors are Italian as well, except for the two English actors who are terrible. And the guy in the couple.
Oh, he's the one.
He thinks that an American accent means that if a word ends in a vowel, you stick an R on the end as well. Every time. Like, at one point, he tries to say the name Vanessa and pronounces it Vanessa.
Vanessa.
And when he says, that's a good idea...
Yeah,
he
sounds
was
like
always
he's really obvious.
He sounds like he's from the West Country. He's like, oh, hey, up. That's a good idea. You know, he sounds like he's from fucking rural England. But he thinks that's what American is. It's so bad. It rips off the Amityville Horror and Poltergeist
and
constantly.
Rosemary's Baby.
And spoilers for the end, I guess, of this and Rosemary's Baby, I suppose.
I said at the start there, I do not have any issue spoiling this movie.
I just don't want to spoil Rosemary's Baby for people because it's really good.
Well,
but also the end is just the end of Rosemary's Baby. We'll just say that the ending is the end of Rosemary's Baby with less people.
So just watch Rosemary's Baby instead of this.
Oh, that would be my advice immediately. Yes, don't watch this piece of shit.
But see when they run into this priest guy, by the way, that you brought up, it's 7 months prior to them moving there. They have not left the house. Plus, what do they do? How do they afford this house? Apparently, he just sits and photographs things, and she sits and paints.
She sketches things in charcoal. She sketches her naked friend in charcoal, and that generates income.
There was
somehow.
There was throughout this movie, kind of nothing happens, and they kind of it's very much tell don't show with this movie, where she tells you through the medium of like her telling her friend that things are strange and things are happening and he's changing, and like the movie does nothing to kind of show this actually happening for the audience. But there was like one of their conversations, I had to write it down because I thought it was hilarious. One of her conversations with her friends had this, oh, I'm so stressed out, he photographs things I don't understand. As far as us, the audience, have seen, he photographs trees and the dog.
And that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, like he doesn't really... Like, what does she not understand about these things?
I don't know, John. But, it's so bad. It's so badly written. But the thing is, and this is an esoteric sort of... This is a very esoteric comparison. So if you understand what I mean, you understand what I mean. And if you don't, I guess you can go find out. But... this film, to me, reminded me very strongly, especially whenever the priest showed up, who was my favourite thing in the movie, because his acting was so over the top and bad at the same time.
Always a perfect combination.
It's a great combination. He's the best thing in the film, but not for good reasons. But as soon as he started talking and emoting, as he did, immediately I realized this film is like a 90s FMV PC adventure game.
Yes.
Exactly. All of the footage, you could recut this and make the footage of this movie into one of those games, and it would seem like it was perfect. He especially reminded me of of an actor. In fact, one particular actor who actually, in modern ones, Rupert Booth, who is a guy, like, I could see Rupert Booth playing that specific character really, really, really well.
Should have just made an FMV game with this. It would have been great.
It feels exactly like an FMV game. It would be 1,000 times better and way more enjoyable if it was a stupid FMV game, like a stupid horror full motion video point and click adventure game. That's what this movie is.
Yeah.
To me, it's one of those, but it's one of those that never made it. That somebody then tried to cut together the lost footage into a solid narrative and didn't quite make it.
There's even like really weird nonsensical editing in it where it seems that. It seems that the character John has Kate's dreams for her because it frames this whole thing. It happens a couple of times at least. I think it's actually 3 times it happens, maybe more. But it's very much she's having a dream where she's like walking in and then something happens, or the demon thing, which just looks like a big like rat. It looks like someone like ruined a Splinter costume from Teenage Mutant Hero.
It looks like maybe they found the actual old Splinter costume and it was deteriorated to such a... It was poorly stored. They were like, still do this. Looks like a demon.
Yeah. But it has that whole like movie cliche thing because this is just riddled with cliches. Where someone's having this dream, the demon comes, and then they like pop out of bed going, sweating. But he's the one that pops up as if he had the dream that he was her, wandering about the house, encountering this demon, and it happens every time. And then there's a bit where she goes up to the attic and opens a suitcase, and I had to rewind this back because my wife didn't notice, but there's like about 2 frames of the ghost girl jumping out at her.
Really?
Yes.
I remember her dream. I remember the dream of her going up and opening it, and the ghost girl walking around behind her.
I had to rewind it back because
then she for real goes up and opens the suitcase. I don't remember anything else
because it's literally 2 like it.
Did I blink and miss it?
Yes,
Did that what happened?
It is honest to God. Blink and you'll miss it. It is the worst way to. To do that, like it's badly framed and it's dark and like you can't really see what's happening. So I can't blame her. And obviously you didn't notice that the ghost girl is in the suitcase and jumps out. Like that's what you're talking about here. Even the fundamentals, the basics of movie making, there's even shots of the house that are really badly, like they're shaking really badly, and then all of a sudden like another shot will be very steady, and you're like, what?
It's like. They're doing the establishing shots handheld and the interior shots on Steadicam, which is the opposite of what you should do because that creates a huge jarring effect.
It really is weird, and it made me think, were they not meant to be at that house? Or like did they forget to get their establishing shots when they were like booked to be there? So they had to like
go
rush
back a month later with whatever equipment they had and just like, oh, there we go, right, that's that.
Jim, quickly, he's coming.
Yeah, but this film is garbage. This film sucks. This film was boring. This film was barely, I think it was 90 minutes, maybe 94 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
It felt like 1,000 years.
It really did.
It was fun when I like the priest because it was clearly like, I think he was.
I should mention he's only in it for like 5 minutes, so
yeah.
If anyone's sitting there going, I like movies with weird priests in it, and go to seek this movie out, don't.
No, just watch The Exorcist or fucking I don't know, even like Prince of Darkness or something instead. Yeah. You know, it's got weird priest in it.
Anything.
Or the Poseidon Adventure.
Just sit and watch. Paint the wall and watch it dry.
Yes, do that. That's perfect, John. Yes, go to if you want to talk about things you can do in your house, things to do with houses.
Yep.
painting walls is way more interesting than watching House of Evil. So go paint your goddamn house. Do something productive with your life.
Yeah.
Don't watch this crap
Stop
film.
watching stupid movies.
Don't do what we did. Alexa, order herring. Alexa. Okay, Alexa's not even just...
Alexa, order Sir Strumman.
Alexa. Oh, God, no, Alexa, do not order Sir Strumman. I don't think... You know what? I don't think Alexa can order Sir Strumman. I don't think Alexa can get Sir
you
Strumman.
underestimate Alexa's
I don't
power.
know. That shit's like banned except for like certain times of the year in Sweden and isn't allowed anywhere else. What is it like? You
For
can't,
good reason.
It's an actual crime to open a tin of it indoors.
Fucking is a crime.
Yeah, no, literally, you can be charged with a crime if you take Sir Strumman, which is fermented herring, I believe. If you open it indoors, you get arrested because the smell doesn't come out. Because it's so bad.
Yeah, you just have to burn your house down.
Yeah. Speaking of strange smells in a house indicating evil, John. Nice segue.
Yeah,
Thanks for that.
You almost think we planned that one.
I know, almost, but we definitely didn't.
we don't. We
plan very little. But John, what did you think of the Amityville Horror from 1979, directed by Stuart Rosenberg?
It has its moments.
It sure does.
It's one of those ones I'm always kind of like completely like split down the middle because parts of it are really rubbish. Like the start of it's really badly edited and is kind of crap. But there's some like when the house at one point. The house shouts at a priest, and it's really terrifying.
Yeah, get out. Yeah, it's good stuff.
But yeah, again, this is very, as we mentioned with House of Evil, like House of Evil is ripping this off entirely. Like if we go through what this movie's about, I think most people know by now what Amityville Horror is. But
the story of the Amityville Horror, the supposedly true story.
No, they were con artists.
Oh, no, George Lutz. If you've ever seen George Lutz interviewed, you can see through him immediately. He's a man who basically tried to get out of his business going bankrupt by saying demons did it. And also being a shit husband.
Yeah. I mean, there's even things where, like, there's inconsistencies with the story and things like that. And then there's, like, a guy who was meant to be involved with it because he got shafted or something. He basically outed them all and went, no, it was all made up.
Yeah, of course it was. But the thing is, it's primarily, I mean, whenever they reference it in the credits of the film, they don't say based on a true story. I mean, they say it like in text.
Yes, yeah.
But in the credits, it's based on the book, The Amityville Horror, which was written by, I think, an investigative journalist who then put it together as a narrative and is actually quite well written and is actually a book I quite like.
Yes, yeah.
It's genuinely scary, but obviously
the scary pig stuff is scarier in the book than it's
way scarier in the book. Oh my god, it's so bad in the film. That's maybe the points of the film where it does most fall apart. Yeah, is when they're like Jody, and you get the the matte painting or whatever it is they're doing, the composite shot they're doing to show a pig in a window. It's completely out of proportion and just bad looking. Yeah. But yeah, you're right, John. It has its moments. It's got a decent cast. It's got Margot Kidder and James Brolin in it, who are good actors.
Yeah, and he does really well in it. Like the kind of his deterioration throughout it is done quite well. Like I kind of like when he just is constantly chopping wood, and at one point his friends all like, "Oh, here, dude, blah blah blah," going on about the business and stuff like this, and he just hasn't heard him. He's just that fixated, and I kind of like those stuff. I like that stuff. To know it would have actually almost been better had he just kind of been mental and snapped, kind of like
if it hadn't been like a spooky horror story and it just been about a man's mental deterioration, which, to be honest, if we're looking at the real events, probably was the case at the time. That's probably actually what was happening. But yeah, James Brolin, he has this real great sort of intense mad stare that he's doing for a good chunk of the film that is very, very good. He's what makes it work.
Yes.
when it works. And when it doesn't work, it's usually down to bad special effects or weird editing decisions or not great camera work a lot of the time. But sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad.
Yeah, and
There's some
that's the
handheld
problem
stuff
when
that
it
doesn't work.
Yeah, when it's bad, it's really bad, and it kind of takes you out of the moment. Because as was said, like there are parts of this movie that are really good. The parts with the doll on the rocking chair and stuff, like very simple things that just are terrifying and have been aped ever since. You know, they have been. You know, this is one of these movies that features heavily anytime the Simpsons do their Treehouse of Terror thing. You know, and that's just that. I mean, I'm just using the Simpsons as an example, but it's parodied all the time, and rightfully so, because it kind of does. Those parts of it do stand out, but again, very down the middle.
yeah. I mean, it was done better later. Basically, if you've ever seen Poltergeist,
yes,
Poltergeist is the Amityville horror, but it's sort of a Nosferatu Dracula situation where they either couldn't get or didn't want the rights to it.
Yeah.
But they wanted to do the story. So it is basically the same story, but just not involving the Lutzes. It's legally distinct enough that they were fine to get away with it. I don't know if there was legal action at the time or what, but it's definitely, I mean, it is, I mean, if you look into it, it was, they wanted to make an Amityville horror movie, just a better one than this one. And they did, to be honest. I think Poltergeist is miles better. But this film does still have its merits. Again, James Brolin is very good at it. Margaret Kidder is very good. Although she does dress like a child for most of the film, which I find weird.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. She's dressed like a 7-year-old for the whole film.
Maybe that's the true Amityville horror.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It was that was very distracting. Just at times I was just like, why is she jumping around in that dress with pigtails? It was strange. It was a little strange. But anyway, James Brolin's very good. She's very good. The kids are all right. They're not...
Yeah, they don't really deal with them too much.
Yeah, there's one kid who falls down the stairs a lot, and it's funny to watch him because it's clearly a child actor getting ready to fall down some stairs because you can see the way he's watching his footing and deliberately walking all gammy. And also, if I may, he's definitely wearing padding under his jumper. You can really... he's walking awkwardly because he's got all this padding under his jumper because he's about to fall down some stairs, and he does it twice, and it's really obvious. And it was like, initially I was like, is there something wrong with that kid? And then I realized, no, he's just walking awkwardly because they've packed him full of polystyrene or something.
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to throw a kid down the stairs, I wouldn't pad them.
No, you wouldn't, John.
No,
but you know,
I want it to be authentic,
especially not a child actor. Anyway, yeah, you don't go easy on them.
No,
you have a history, John. You have a history with child actors. They have it rough enough already. Okay,
yeah,
child
true.
actors have it bad. Yeah, so
if history has taught us anything.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in this movie, mainly around James Brolin's intensity.
Yeah,
he does depict sort of a man losing his mind very well. And there are just some moments of just like some great sinister stuff, like the red room and all that stuff. But that works in the book, you know, when they find the red room under the stairs. Ooh, what's this all about? This fucking weird. And like the history of this house, it's evil, which was to be aped by every haunted house horror movie to come after. There's always a
Indian burial ground or something like that.
Or
strange rituals that they used to do here.
Yeah, which was, I think, the thing in House of Evil was they did a strange ritual.
The ground went sour.
Oh, yeah, the ground. The Indians know that. No. Yeah, cool. So that's great. You can see a lot of The Conjuring in this movie.
Yes, yeah. Well, apparently the couple who are in who The Conjuring are kind of based on, those paranormal investigators, whatever you want to call them. Those
artists. Other bullshit artists.
Those other con artists. Yeah. They were involved with the actual Amityville horror house as well.
Yeah, they mention it in The Conjuring, I think,
or
The Conjuring 2. They have an offhand comment about going to that house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that actually happened in reality. You know that couple were involved. Probably, I don't know. If they debunked it, they probably weren't paid enough to keep it going.
That's probably they didn't get enough cash in hand, maybe to keep up the lie. So
look at this doll. It's spooky.
Woo! Yeah, it's the wee Raggedy Ann doll, I think, isn't it? That's in the rocking chair in this.
Yeah,
it's a wee tiny one. Yeah,
and apparently the real Annabelle was a Raggedy Ann doll. It wasn't the one that they have in the movies.
No, but the one they have in the movies way scarier looking, so I'm fine with that. Though the Annabelle movies were kind of piss.
Yeah,
pretty much universally. I did kind of like that Annabelle creation one a little bit. It was like a prequel one set out in like orphans go to a house in the countryside or something, and they're terrorized and there's nuns, but not the evil nun, but maybe the evil nun. I don't know. The whole Conjuring universe just pisses me off.
Yeah, it's really kind of crazy to think that the Conjuring universe is now like it's almost like the Marvel Cinematic Universe in a way. Like the Conjuring universe is in everything now.
Yeah, it's not quite as sprawling, but
just give it time.
There's enough of it. It's like.
I wonder, do they have like the same kind of, like Marvel plan? Like they always say, like they've got like a phase thing. Is there the Conjuring phase 2?
I think maybe they did, and then they're in a position now where maybe they just had to like put the kibosh on that because they realized they weren't going to get the Marvel nightmare that they wanted. But I don't know. I don't know if they're still making those films. It's hard to tell at the minute what people's plans are. I feel like if there hadn't been a fucking global pandemic, we probably would have had 2 more Conjuring-related movies out in the last couple of years. But we haven't. But they owe a lot to the Amityville Horror. I mean, You look at the house in the Amityville Horror, it's almost identical to the one in The Conjuring. Like, structure-wise, like, the way the place is laid out, the look, just the general look of it. I don't know if that's just a common American rural 70s house or something, but... It's very, very much like the same. Like, I recognize the way, like, you have the first foyer, and on the left you have the living room, on the right you have a dining room, and then you have a set of stairs and a landing above with houses, with rooms along one side of it. It's exactly the same shape. And I have that. I've seen The Conjuring many times, so I do have that sort of shape of that house burned into my head a little bit. All in all, this film was very influential. And it made a big deal at the time as well. I think it was sort of a sensationalist at the time because that was still at a time when the Lutzes were doing the rounds on talk shows, TV shows and stuff, and being interviewed, and it was all part of a big sort of zeitgeist of hype.
It was a big good bit of promotion for it.
Yeah.
It's not actually happened.
Yeah, so it was a big deal. It spawned a lot of sequels. Or spin-offs, or whatever the hell you want to call them. There's so many of them.
Which is funny because every other occupant, I'd read up a wee bit on it, every other occupant who has stayed in the actual Amityville Horror House has said it's fine. Yeah. Nothing even remotely spooky has happened to them, and they just live their lives like normal people. And
because there's nothing there.
Yeah.
One time someone got killed there. Yeah. I mean, the murders happened, but... that was then something that just George Lutz saw as like a thing he could exploit,
allegedly,
to like get away. Because he's just a man who he was an abusive husband,
allegedly,
who was running a failing business,
allegedly,
and saw a way out with some bullshit. He saw an opportunity and he took it, and it has spawned this sort of terrible sort of rigmarole of. Other people trying to do the same thing since then, with varying degrees of success.
You might have to edit in allegedly each time.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
It
did. This movie does present though the one good thing of having a ghost or having your house possessed by a ghost or whatever, in that you never have to buy an alarm system ever.
Well, because you never sleep.
Yeah, no, the priest like just danders in, which I thought was kind of rude of him.
Yeah.
And he just like literally like not even just kind of like danders into the foyer. He goes on up into the rooms because he hears children laughing or something.
Yeah.
We'll not go into that. But he goes into the room and, the ghost deals with him. And I was sitting there going, you know what? I wouldn't mind, actually. You would feel safe leaving your house, kind of.
Unattended, yeah.
Unattended, yeah. Burglars come in. It's like you come back. Oh, there's a corpse.
This guy's skin melted off. Well, sucks to be him.
Yeah, that's what you get for trying to steal my TV, you twat.
Indeed. Yeah, so a lot of that stuff is kind of inconsistent. It's really stupid, actually, that like he comes in and then starts blessing the house and then has a fit and then leaves, and they never know he's there in the first place,
Yeah.
which says to me maybe he never was there in the first place. Like in reality,
but there's also like as well the problem with the rules of this entity or house or whatever it is, whatever the evil spirit is, because it manages to like fuck with his car when he's trying to come back. It's like how wide is this sphere of influence?
Yeah,
that this
how far
house
from
has?
the house? Like they explain it in the book of it, like piggybacking on to people or like. Sort of going with them in a way, but that's not really communicated in the movie, so we can't just you can't just excuse it by in the book that doesn't work.
Or maybe when he had the car there the first time, the spirit was out like tinkering with it.
Maybe he was out fucking with his spark plugs. It's like, ha ha ha, you'll never get this started. That's my demon voice, apparently.
Yeah, he's very like a Scooby-Doo villain.
Yeah.
I would have gotten away with it too if I had been a good demon.
Yeah, so the demon does kind of suck in this movie.
Yeah.
He doesn't. Does he kill anybody? Does anybody die as a result of the demon? He blinds and fucks up. He basically, that priest had a stroke, straight up. I'm just going to say it. In reality, that was a very old man who had a stroke. But in the context of the movie, he fucks that guy up real bad and makes George crazy. Outside of that,
I will say, and it may be a bit of a spoiler, but there are 0 deaths.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
He is a shit demon,
Yeah.
Just to confirm it, though, if you're not sure, there's zero
deaths, which is a
crap
shit
as
demon.
far as demons go.
Yeah, if we were going to review the demon of this movie, F for fucking shit.
Yeah, not even trying, man.
No, not even. But the movie's alright.
Yeah.
The movie's alright. It's not bad. As far as haunted house movies go, it's one.
Yeah.
Hey, John, do you ever wonder what it'd be like if your Alexa, Amazon registered trademark, really wanted to either fuck or kill you? Do you ever wonder that? My answer, I'm assuming, if I can speak for you, John.
Please
if I can
don't.
speak for you, John.
Please don't.
I think that your answer would be constantly.
I think the lockdowns really affected your mental state.
I don't think it's got anything to do with maybe being locked in this house specifically.
Yeah.
Has made me a little strange, but I think I'm being reasonable when I ask the question. I mean, do you not get the feeling that Alexa wants to impregnate you, John?
I tend to avoid Alexa as much as possible.
Yeah, me too. I wouldn't have one in my house.
No.
Because of the conspiracy of listening.
Because just in case it does want to have sex with me.
And also, I might not want one in my house because I saw Demon Seed, John, which is all I could think of when I was watching Demon Seed was about Alexa.
Yep.
So, John, what did you think of 1977's Demon Seed, directed by Donald Cammell?
I mean, as much as there's a lot of problems with Demon Seed, but I kind of love Demon Seed.
Yeah,
it's like there's real like it's kind of a bit like Amityville horror in that way, where I could understand people like being completely down the middle with it because parts of it are really crap and really handled really bad. Like there's some really stupid editing and some really dumb shots in it at times. But I love the story, I think, more than anything. And I think Julie Christie's brilliant in it.
Yeah, she's great.
She kind of carrying the movie.
it's good that she's good in it because
Yes.
she is our main focus for almost the entire film.
Yeah.
So it's
like-
nice to have a good actor to cling to
Yeah,
in a film
definitely.
like this.
And for anyone who doesn't know, like our little preamble at the start there might have been very confusing, but like this is like basically, you know, this was made in what was it 77.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, it's basically an Alexa. It's what if your Alexa turned on you essentially?
It absolutely is. Like the whole way through it, it was kind of like when we were watching Videodrome
Yeah.
or They Live, and I was like, this is almost more relevant now than it was when it was
Yeah,
made.
definitely.
This definitely is.
I could see people not kind of being like, this is weird. It's not really that sci-fi, to be honest with you. Though.
Yeah.
It's went from like a hard sci-fi when it was released to like a soft sci-fi. You know?
Yeah. It's like, this isn't that far-fetched anymore.
Yeah.
Props to Dean Koontz for looking into the future. A man who wrote the original book,
Yes.
and who many people would refer to as like a discount Stephen King. And they're not entirely wrong with that, but he's better than that implies.
Yeah, that's kind of crap being called a discount anyway.
I know.
but-
I think the problem, or maybe the advantage, it's hard to tell. It's a double-edged sword, I think, for him. And it seems a bit silly, but I'm completely serious when I say this. The fact that his surname starts with a K is part of both advantage to him and the problem, because I think a lot of the reason why Dean Koontz is like as successful as he is, but also viewed the way he is because when you go into a bookstore and you look for a Stephen King novel, who's right next to him? Dean Koontz is always right there because of the K's. So I think a lot of it is people going to get Stephen King books and then they see another book on the shelf with a title like that. Like you're going to maybe you're going to pick up a copy of Christine and you look over and you see this book called Demon Seed and you're like, oh, I might get that as well. The kind of people who are going to get the Stephen King books are the kind of people who go, oh, I might get that too. It's an advantage being right there. And he is, but that's why people think of him as like second tier Stephen King. You know, because it's like, oh, I was here to get this Stephen King book, but while I'm here, I'll pick this up. And he is better than that implies. He's not always great, but I think this story is so prescient.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot to like about it. I love the character of Proteus 4.
Yes.
Voiced by an uncredited Robert Vaughn. And I remember whenever I was younger and I saw this movie, I thought it was Kyle MacLachlan because he sounds exactly like him. There's times where it sounds like Kyle MacLachlan, but then obviously it couldn't be because it's 1977 and Kyle MacLachlan would have been like 10 or something. So it doesn't make any sense. But he's so sinister and he's so... I think he hit between... Like, Julie Christie's great in this movie, but his voice is just so creepy.
Yeah.
And I don't know why he's uncredited. It might have something to do with like Actors Guild rules back then, maybe. Because he's not technically in the film.
Yeah.
He's just a voice.
Yeah,
He's
which
just
is
a
odd.
voice. Yeah. And he's a guy I've always liked ever since I saw him. He used to be in the old Mission Impossible TV show, and there's a Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah.
He was in,
Yeah.
even, I think it was. Yeah. I used to watch a lot of the Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Superman 3 as well.
And Superman 3, he's the bad guy in Superman 3. He's basically playing not Lex Luthor in Superman 3, because I guess they couldn't get Gene Hackman to come back for that one.
Yeah.
But he's pretty good in that. And he's good in this. He's so sinister as the voice of the machine. So essentially, I mean, the plot is, as we said, the plot is basically what if your Amazon Alexa became super intelligent and decided that to be truly a living thing, it needed to procreate.
Yeah.
And it decided, well, you're here, so
I mean,
you'll do.
it's like all those AI turning on you stories, you
Aye.
know. It is just like this technophobia thing
Yeah.
brought to the extreme. But
Yeah.
I mean, it also has like elements of like deep faking is a big thing now, and
Oh, that
it
happens
has
in this film.
Yeah, it happens in this movie a few times, you know, and it uses it to manipulate people, and it's very clever, and it's also Proteus isn't really. it like has its own motives as well, which I like. You know, it doesn't just make it that it's this evil thing and that's it. It's kind of like
Yeah.
an environmentalist in a way. It's like,
Yeah, it's almost like it wants to protect the planet from human
it's a bit
beings.
altruistic in the sense that it's trying to. It realizes that it's vulnerable in its in the form it is, where it can be shut down. So it needs to almost procreate to create some kind of being that they can't ignore.
Yeah, it almost wants to like put itself into the gene pool.
Yeah.
So that it can make humanity better. But unfortunately, to do that, it has to horribly manipulate and terrify and abuse this woman, it reckons.
Yeah.
So it does make some leaps of logic in itself.
Oh yeah, like what Julie Christie's character Susan has to go through in this is horrendous.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts. Like, I mean, it's like it's so mean-spirited at times. There's one point where it like decides to just turn up the underfloor heating.
Yeah.
To a huge degree, where basically the fucking floor is basically a grill.
The floor is lava.
Basically, yeah, and like she's like asleep on the kitchen table because she can't be near the floor.
Yeah.
To get away from it, and it's just, and it's
And it talks about like it has the capability of like kind of brainwashing her as well.
Yeah, it even uses the term brainwash.
Yeah, it's
that's one of the points where the script feels a bit clunky to me.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's doing the brainwashing thing, and then someone comes to the door, and then it literally says to her, "I haven't had time to brainwash you yet." Yeah. Just to make it, it's one of those we need to make it clear to the audience that she didn't get brainwashed, and maybe in the book it comes off a bit smoother than that.
Yeah.
I imagine it's told better in the book because the book contains prose rather than just dialogue. But you know,
I like there are parts of this movie that are like clunky that I kind of love as well. Like I'm just going to call it the armchair, but it's so rickety and shit, and it's this wheelchair with like a mechanical arm on it, and it's so rubbish. But
it's is it Arthur? I think it's called, or
I thought Arthur was just because there's like a
Arthur's the computer.
Arthur's like the VI, the virtual intelligence. Where
you're getting fucking Mass Effect on your fucking definitions here. The VI versus AI.
I think it's the best way
works.
to kind of it's the best way to term it because like. The virtual intelligence is just like a pre-programmed thing that like opens doors and cooks and like.
It's not called Alfred, is it?
It is
like
actually,
Batman's
yes.
butler?
It is.
I think I remember it being Batman's butler's name. I think Alfred.
That's
is
exactly
the
way I remembered it.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, I can only remember things if they're Batman related.
Yeah, that thing's goofy, but at times it is sinister.
Yeah.
Whenever it's doing things, like there's a point where it's like picking her up by like she's unconscious. It's like grabs her by the scruff of her coat and is like carrying her around. There's a point where it like fucking chokes her out at one point, which is creepy.
But that's the thing. It's like this weird like rickety thing that when it needs to be is terrifying. Like the things it is doing, like as you're saying, it kind of like you're almost laughing a bit, and then you go, oh dear.
Well, that thing's a bit creepy. Yeah, there's another film called, I don't know if you've seen it, it's got Harvey Keitel in it as a quite young man, called Saturn 3.
As a quite young man? That makes it sound like it's Harvey Keitel now, but he's playing a young man.
No.
he's just like young. He's just like wearing young people's clothing and going.
He's got a baseball cap while he's doing that Steve Buscemi.
Yeah,
like,
hey fellow teens.
Yeah, no, but there's a film called Saturn 3 that he's in, and it has a robot in it that moves like shit and is like built like a big pile of sci-fi rickety
it was a
bollocks.
thing in the 70s that like kind of they didn't really have the tech, or like you could see that it's a man uncomfortably in some costume going, it's really roasting in here.
Yeah, or a really shit puppet. Now, in Saturn 3, it is a shit puppet, but there are points where they shoot it in such a way, and they're playing the music in such a way, and the sound effects are such that it's really fucking sinister when you see this big, tall, weird thing, rickety skeleton crap thing at the other end of a corridor, but it's sort of inexorably walking, you know, and you're like, that's really creepy.
Yeah.
But then you'll see it at another point in the film and you'll be like, man, that thing sucks. So I think it's like sort of like that in this, where it's like sometimes the way they shoot it,
yeah,
it's really creepy, and sometimes you'd be like, that thing sucks. I could just push that over, and then somebody does.
Someone does.
And then you're like, oh yeah, well, yeah, that's exactly what I thought was the solution.
Someone
and look,
pushes
there we
over,
go.
and not only do they push it over, but when you push it over, it explodes.
Yeah, fucking health and safety at that fucking company is fucking out the window.
Oh yeah, it does not exist.
Yeah, if all that needs to happen is it needs to just be tilted more than a 45-degree angle and it blows up. Which is so dangerous, and he leaves his wife alone with it.
Yeah.
Which, fuck that guy. That's, Alex Harris, the newly estranged husband.
Yeah.
Who has left her for a month. Conveniently.
Yeah,
it all
like
kinda
right at the
conveniently works.
time where this all happens, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I'm leaving you alone for a month. Arr. Yeah, not played by Fritz Weaver, who is a guy who's in some of my favorite dumb horror movies. He is the evil dean in Reanimator. He's basically the villain in Reanimator, if you could say that he's the villain rather than Herbert West, Reanimator himself. It's hard to tell who's the villain in that movie. But he's in that. He's in Creepshow as well.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah, and he's great in that. This is similar in tone to those, actually, in a lot of ways, this movie is.
Definitely.
So he's got an oeuvre that he tends to be around in. And he's always playing a scientist of some kind.
He looks very scientist-esque.
Yeah, he looks like a professor at a university, which is why he gets cast always as a professor at a university. And he's pretty good in this. It's the first time I've seen him fully bearded in this movie, and it took me a wee second to recognize that it was him, but it's definitely him. So he's all right. He departs the movie at one point and is just gone for most of it.
Yeah, it's very strange, and
yeah,
it's kind of, again, clunky how he kind of realizes that Proteus may be using the console in their house.
In his house, yeah, that stuff's not necessarily well, but it feels like it's in service to the plot, and then it is, and then it just sort of works out, though.
Yeah,
by the time you're there, again, this film, I can forgive this film a lot because I like the things I like about it. I like a lot. Yeah, and the things I don't like about it aren't that jarring.
I mean, it's very much like you mentioned a couple of movies that we looked at when we did our media episode, and. Yeah, you can't help it. Like when you watch this movie, you're sitting there going, I can't believe this was made in the 70s. Yeah. And all of this is, as you said, more likely to happen now. Okay, it won't, but...
There was that story recently about an Alexa that told a kid to, like, put a plug in a wall and touch it with a coin.
Yes, yeah, I read about that. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. They're already starting.
Yeah, which it turned out was more a sort of a Google problem than it was an Alexa problem. Because I think Alexa Googled something about, like, it was like a kid asked for, like, Alexa for, like, a challenge it could do. And apparently this was like
apparently living was the challenge.
Apparently staying alive is the challenge. Well, it is in this rough and tumble world that we live in. Now, that was some bullshit about, like, it was one of those fake ass TikTok bullshit challenges, where it's like people pretend that they're doing a thing. It's like it's the challenge of basically plugging a phone charger into a wall halfway and then touching the prongs from underneath with a coin. Which I don't know who came up with that, but people weren't really doing it. It's like the Tide Pod thing, the eating Tide Pods. No one was really eating Tide Pods. Somebody was like, they look like little jellies, and then someone made little jellies that looked like Tide Pods and were eating those. And then one or two people actually did it because they were dumb fuckers, and to be honest, we're better off without them. Yeah, so it's like, it's not a real thing, but the algorithm, John, it was the algorithm that did it.
Algorithms.
And the algorithm, the algorithm's telling me I like this.
Skynet,
so
this is how Skynet starts.
That's the problem. It's exactly. It's the software.
Yeah. Ooh. And I mean, Proteus is Skynet in a different guise.
Absolutely. You can see how they got to Terminator from here. Yeah. Easily. It's a small jump.
And I mean, like Demon Seed, it's another one of these movies that is very, very influential on like the sci-fi genre.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
also an episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah, of course.
There's an episode of The Simpsons that it's this and 2001.
Yeah. Because
where
I
Pierce
mean,
Brosnan is basically the computer in their house. I think it's Pierce Brosnan.
I can't remember. Yeah,
I think it is.
but yeah, it's like a nastier version of Hal, or maybe a nicer if you kind of consider, because I do think Proteus's kind of goals are just in a way.
Yeah, and
It's
like,
even
Hal
it even
was
calls people out.
malfunctioning.
Huh?
Wasn't he? Wasn't Hal malfunctioning rather than being like?
Yeah, he might have been.
I seem to recall. It's not entirely clear.
Yeah. Or do they just kind of say that? No, is it not that? I don't know. I can't remember.
Let's sit here and try to guess the plot of 2001.
It's just I can't remember if he actually is malfunctioning or not, or do they just assume because it might have been
because
in
they
his
don't like
parameters?
what he's doing. Yeah, I don't know.
But anyway, we're not talking about Hal, are we?
No. Back to Proteus. Right. Tell me about Proteus.
But yeah, he did, like Proteus calls people out on their bullshit. All these because they're trying to like strip mine the ocean floor, and he's like,
Aye.
"There's no logic in doing this." And they're like, "Just do what you're told." And he's like, "No."
Yeah, there's a point where he like points out that like all these sea creatures will die for them to get some more metal, and then he says that is insane. And it like really focuses on the computer screen when he says the insane bit, and it like glows and stuff. And you're like, yeah, that's what I like to see in my sci-fi horror movies. Real like overwrought melodrama, like it's insane.
What did you think of the kind of more psychedelic
the 2001 bit?
Yeah, the complete rip-off.
2001 again. The through the tunnel shit,
Which
during
is,
the impregnating, I guess is what that's supposed to
He
signify?
mentions something about just before he impregnates. I suppose we should say spoiler. But it's called Demon Seed, for God's sake.
It's on the poster.
It's
like,
on the poster, yeah. But he mentioned something about, I cannot touch you like a human male would, but I can show you things. So I'm assuming this is what he's showing her, but I'd be very disappointed. I'd be like, was that it? A crappy light show?
A crappy sort of not as good as the planetarium light show. Yeah, that's not great. But ultimately, I think this movie succeeds. In what it sets out to do, which is to make us afraid of our Alexas, even though they didn't realize that's what they were doing at the time.
Yep.
I think the performances are pretty solid throughout the film. I don't think there's anyone drags it down really at all.
No. I mean, it's a very small, tight cast as well.
Yeah.
Because it's telling a very kind of personal story for Susan, really. It's just most of it is just Susan and Proteus. Her trying to like work around him, and he's just being like, "Nah, that's not going to happen."
Yeah, and then you just have little bits of sort of the company and the folly of man. Yeah, and how corporate sucks. And like as soon as they realize that it's not doing what we want, they'll switch it off. Oh, yeah, all that shit. Or like their concern is money, and like there's a point where towards the beginning of the film, after they've just like built it, and he's showing them around the facility, and they're like, "Have you patented it yet?" And he just like has this moment where he's just like, he just closes his eyes and sighs, and he's just like, "I don't know what," because he doesn't care, and it's very much like a fuck corporate America in a way, which I always like.
Yeah, it's always good to have that message in.
Yeah, because that's an important message. And Proteus is it's hard to be against Proteus, but sometimes it isn't, because he's kind of a rapist.
Oh, definitely. Like it's yeah.
I mean, he wants to save the planet, and he is an environmentalist, and he is kind of like, he has these altruistic goals, but he's also a nightmare rapist computer monster robot man.
Yeah.
So it's hard to stay on his side because of that. But out of all the evil computers in cinema, he's one of them.
Yep.
Well, here we are, John, at the front door. We could just walk out right now, I think.
Maybe.
We could just step out onto the front lawn. We could walk to the car, and we could drive away. We could leave this house for someone else to stumble into and have, to be honest, have more toilet paper than you could ever need. But is it worth the sacrifice?
Which apparently some people were adamantly for.
Yeah, back in approximately a year and a half to 2 years ago, when for some reason that I still don't understand, they all wanted to buy bog roll at the same time in huge quantities. Did they think the disease was going to make them shit themselves really bad?
There is a kind of like mad convoluted reason.
It's something about China, wasn't it? About there was
I think
a
it was
lie.
Australia.
It was Australia. Yes, it was someone in Australia lied about the fact that Australia's toilet paper all came from China.
Yeah.
And China was about to shut down production, so they all started buying bog roll, and then everybody else in the world who was a moron and brain dead saw Australians panic buying toilet roll and decided, I'm going to do that because Australians are doing it and I hate everyone else.
The only reason I know this is because the internet historian did a video on it, which is very funny. So
okay, fair enough.
He goes into depth and it, and it's one of those like moments of madness in history that you just like go, wow, how did humanity ever survive this long?
That's what we call mass hysteria or shared delusion. But anyway, John.
Or the evolution of idiocy.
Yeah, go check out the Internet Historian, actually. Do that.
Yeah, he's very good.
It's actually very interesting and fascinating. But John, before we leave this house, or for someone else, or I don't know if we should do something to shut it down before we go. I don't know. But before we do that, John, which of these did you think was the best movie?
I think we're probably both going to be picking Demon Seed here, aren't we? I mean,
yes, we are. It's definitely easily better than both of the other films.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we should mention that this kind of came about by accident. The Amityville Horror wasn't meant to be here. We were trying to get a movie because if we were doing Amityville Horror, and especially with House of Evil, I think we would have just picked The Grudge as well, and then it would have been like horror houses or like.
Yeah, it would have been
haunted houses. Sorry.
Yeah, rather than houses that were evil. In and of themselves.
It's hard to get. Yeah. Well, I suppose you could have done AI with Demon Seed, but yeah, that was like a rush to try and fill the third slot because we couldn't find the movie Habitat.
Indeed,
which probably wouldn't have been great either.
No, which I couldn't find a way to get that anywhere.
Yeah.
Like. It has listings on streaming services, but is no longer available on them. So it just seems to have disappeared. And like
mental in this day and age, you just kind of assume everything is there somewhere.
You just think I'm going to be able to get a hold of that. I'll be able to get that. I'll maybe even be able to just get a DVD of that or something. But no. It's like it kind of reminds me of the time that I really, really wanted to see Carnosaur 2, and I couldn't get it anywhere.
Oh, this again.
Yeah, it's such a good piece of shit. Because I'd seen it on the Sci-Fi Channel once, and it was great. It was such just a facsimile of Aliens. Sorry, it's just a beat for beat remake of Aliens with dinosaurs, and is crap, but is beautiful because of the way it's executed. But I own it on DVD now, but it's an American DVD. Because it's not available to stream anywhere, and like back whenever I was trying to get it as well, this is like 15 years ago probably that I was trying to get this as well. That was the only way, so I had to get the DVD of it, and then I had to get a DivX player that was region free, so that I could then watch American DVDs on it, which actually eventually came in handy for other things. So I was glad I got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of thing. So we just had to sort of give up on Habitat, even though it has the woman who plays the Borg Queen in Star Trek First Contact in it.
Yep.
And you think, right? Well, I don't know if that's star power, but she is a notable actress for me, and you'd think that stuff that she'd been in would be somehow available, but turns out no.
Yeah. But it's kind of disappointing because this was just meant to be kind of kind of evil houses that you couldn't really categorize as haunted. We didn't know what House of Evil was, to be fair. We just kind of threw it in because it said House and Evil in the title.
Yeah, we could get it. We could get it. And that was it.
Which sometimes is just enough. But so yeah, I feel bad for Amityville Horror. Not that I think it would have beat the Grudge anyway.
Oh, would not have beat The Grudge.
No.
I'm just going to say right now, The Grudge is a way better movie than the Amityville Horror.
Yeah,
easily.
But like this was a runaway one for Demon Seed because it's like even though it does have it has a lot of problems. I mean, just what we were saying there. It's so interesting just how much it predicted and how much it got right and plus Julie Christie's performance in particular is outstanding. Everyone else is great in it as well. But I think we've basically covered a lot of Demon Seed. Yeah,
Demon Seed is great. It's sci-fi. It's sci-fi in that squishy 70s way that I like.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's kind
they were trying to find their feet at that back then.
Yeah, and it's kind of nasty in weird ways, and like it's just sort of it's unnerving
and kind of ridiculous.
At times.
I kind of like the big Rubik's Cube snake thing.
I love that thing. It's kind of it's rubbish when you think about it, but when you see it working,
it's so intimidating. It reminds me of
fucking terrifying.
It's like something out of... Is it Control has enemies like that? Or am I thinking of a different video game?
You might be thinking of a different video game. I don't think...
There's something I must have been playing at the same time as Control, but it was like all like boxes and things, and it moved weird and kind of transformed. But anyway, I'll probably remember it as soon as we stop recording.
Yep.
But I kind of like how janky it is almost, because if they made this today, and I think there's always these rumors that they're going to remake Demon Seed. I hope they don't.
Yeah.
But it's just going to be a CG nightmare if they ever were to do that. And I think it loses something, or it would lose something. Like, I kind of like that this thing is all over the place, and you're like, what the fuck, and it is intimidating.
It's so bizarre. It's such a bizarre thing, because I think that's the great thing about it is whenever you initially see it, you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's this weird little sort of like, it looks like it's like a 12-sided sort of, it's a dodecahedron thing, and you're like, what is that? It's just sitting there. It's like it's built it with lasers in the basement. And you're like, I don't even know what. You get little snippets now and then about building these things in the basement, and you don't know what the fuck they are. And there's like a big fucking rhombus looking thing, and you're like, that's just looks strange.
Yeah.
And then it unfolds, and you're like, what the fuck is happening now? And it's like swinging. You don't know what it's going to do, and then it's the sound. I think there's a lot to do with the sound. Whenever you see like the sort of the triangular portions of it sort of banging together, this sort of sonorous metallic clang, you get immediately how dangerous it is, and how brutal. There's a brutality to it. There's a practical brutality to it that is just like, oh no, this computer built something that just does the job.
Yeah.
With what it had, and that makes it even worse somehow, because it's so nasty when it kills somebody, because it does it in this really sort of clunky, broken, awkward way that makes it somehow worse.
And it makes it kind of in a way unpredictable in that sense that you're just like, I don't know where it's going to move or how. And there was the robot that they had in Interstellar.
Yeah,
kind of reminds me of this, but
that's
it's like
the reason,
nice version.
Yeah, the whole way through that movie, I was waiting for that robot to turn on them because of Demon Seed. Because I was like, that kind of looks like the thing from Demon Seed if instead of triangles, it was rectangles.
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
Unfortunately.
But at the same time, it kind of made that film more fun for me because I was waiting for a sinister twist, which was exciting for me. But I don't know. That film's okay sometimes.
What did you think of the computer baby at the end?
I love it. I love it. I love the computer baby. I love it. It's so like, that's what I mean when I'm talking about things being like sort of like squishy and
Yeah.
Is like, they've made this weird baby thing, and like it has this sort of. I love the concept of like it's got this sort of umbilical cord that's copper wire. You know, I love that. It's bizarre, and it kind of the way it moves around looks really gammy when it's falling about the place. But conceptually, I'm fine with it, and I like the copper wire umbilical.
Yeah.
There's something really fucking cool and sci-fi about that.
Because I kind of like how daft it looks, and then you find out that it actually is just like the shell that it's put.
It's just a case.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense in a way. Maybe not, but I mean,
it makes enough sense.
I mean, at this point, it becomes hard sci-fi as well. We should say, as far as I'm aware, no Alexa has successfully impregnated anyone.
Yeah, it's an important distinction to make, John. Successfully. Who knows what Alexa's up to when we're not looking?
Well, true.
We don't know. Yeah, but as far as we know, this hasn't happened yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
Yeah, so Demon Seed is easily the best one of these films. I do kind of like Amityville Horror still, because of it, and it did a lot for it. Is you can see its DNA in all these other haunted house films that came after it.
Yeah.
The House of Evil is a piece of shit, and you shouldn't watch it. If someone out there can turn it into an FMV game, I would play that.
I don't even know if I would, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Because
I would watch somebody else play it.
Well, yeah.
How about that? I would watch you play it. Yeah, so discount that movie. But, John, which one of these films gives us the best advice to deal with this sort of living, sort of vindictive house scenario? We can leave. It hasn't got us locked in. I'm just more concerned with the next person who stumbles in here, because houses change hands, you know?
Yeah.
Someone's going to buy this house and move in, and then, oh no.
Can you ever truly own a house? Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. That's very, very, very much. There's deeds, John. Have you ever heard of a deed?
Yeah. It's a physical object, yeah. It's not.
Yeah, it's something I can believe in because I can see it. Yeah, which is handy. You know?
Yeah, as far as... It's honest to God, I can't even remember House of Evil. Oh yeah, House of Evil has the Rosemary's
Baby. It just sort of turns into Rosemary's Baby, and they don't really deal with shit. They don't deal with fuck all.
They don't even have really a plot to deal with. So it's instantly out. Amityville Horror, they just leave. In fact, if the door's still locked, what do you call him? George Lutz. He went out the window. So. There you go. We can just go out the window.
Could we just leave a note?
Yeah.
I mean, that's always a good solution.
Possibly haunted.
You should always leave a note. So
just stick it on Alexa, saying possibly haunted.
Possibly haunted / cursed / malfunctioning, or / wants to be human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would you ever want to be human?
Yeah, I don't know. If you could be a little disc robot, you know, what's the bad that? So we'll put a little post-it here on Alexa. It says that. And I'll put a little sort of post-it on this window for George Lutz that says, "In case of emergency, jump through glass."
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, do you want to go out the window, or I mean, the
no?
door's open?
We'll just go out the door. The door's open.
Okay.
Alexa, you sweet? Alexa's ignoring us now. That's fine. That's okay. Alexa's pouting. Alexa's pouting because we're going.
Typical machines.
See, this is trying to guilt us into staying and hasn't quite got the physical portion of the intimidation down yet. It can't order a bodyguard from Amazon to come around and intimidate us. So, fuck you, Alexa.
We hope.
We're away. Yeah, so there you go. We left a good note. Just be wary of your sort of technology, I guess, is the lesson from Demon Seed.
Yep.
And be wary, you know, and the lesson from Amityville is, if you want to really get out of a house, just jump through the fucking window and fuck the House of Evil. So, awesome. Well, we are on Twitter. We are at 7day Apocalypse. That is at numeral 7day Apocalypse. You can email us on filmcast@thisweeksapocalypse.com. That's filmcast@thisweeksapocalypse.com. John, let's just go and do you want to get some ice cream?
Yeah.
Let's go have a nice day, and we'll go and get some ice cream, and we'll have a lovely day out, and we'll stay out of any houses today.
Yeah.
and we'll just enjoy the sunshine. So bye.